There is a lot of talk in the gaming space right now that Microsoft would be leaving the console market, let alone gaming market, in the coming years to late 2027 to 2030. I understand there's a lot of uncertainty, and we're here to delve into it, and then I'll give you my final thoughts about it. I know there's a lot of changes that goes on with Microsoft right now that some people don't agree with. I agree with them to a certain extent, let alone play a lot of these games that's going to come to this platform. So I'll give you my official thoughts at the very end. But this first article I want to talk about, it's going to go into, we know who it's from. It's from WooTech. And if you guys know who WooTech is, they literally have a vendetta against Microsoft as a whole. They don't get review copies for games. They harsh their things critically. So they tend to go against the grain of what people like with Microsoft. So that is just for record straight. They've already been, I'm gonna say, caught red-handed doing this. It's just a constant barrage, but they actually have the facts that I'm looking for. They just like to spin what they want to say. So let's check out what WooTech has to say. Okay, this article is from WooTech, of course. All right, let's see what they got to say right here. As noted, keep saying WooTech, it's WooCC, but I call them WooTech because they cry a lot. That's just the disclaimer. Okay, Spencer has asked that whether would happen if they didn't reach their goal, and his answer was this: I can fairly safely say that if we do not make more progress than this of console, we would exit the gaming business. If this were the outcome, we would. I don't believe we'd still be in the business. So meaning, of course, if they don't meet their current or get more Game Pass subscribers as a whole, they would leave the gaming console space. I digress. So let's keep on going. The majority of our customers are found off our own hardware. I hope by early 2030, so we asked me if I agree with the chart that the light green and the blue, depending on what Microsoft colors, you can see these would have the much larger much earlier. I would say by the fiscal year 2026 or 2027 that we should be in position, or we'd have to make a different decision with the business. In the graph, the dark green section is traditional Xbox game console gamers, the light green is section of PC gamers, and the light blue section is cloud gaming. As the other revelations made clear, the cloud gaming is currently next to nothing. Of course it's next to nothing because it's a new venture Xbox is going on. So that is the lot of the ground to make up in these last 3 years, especially in all previous indicators that have been to Game Pass is still underperforming against Microsoft's expectations. And of course, we got the chart right here looking at the bottom. Cloud game first, PC gamers, console. Okay, PC and console gamers, cloud is up there, and this for the next console, because we know Microsoft right now is trying to build up their cloud streaming service, but with the internet's infrastructure in the US, we don't know if that's truly going to become a fruition. But it's good to see that the steps that they're taking right now is to set that up. But the issue is people going to wait that long for Microsoft to do anything like that? And honestly, I don't think so. I'm not really a cloud gamer guy. I play some cloud gaming is convenient, but it's only good when you have a good internet service and their servers and stuff can handle it. And with their new Azure tech that they're developing, that's a stepping stone in the right direction. Okay, next. What I don't believe is, like, here's one thing. I understand WooTech likes to embellish a lot of things, but sometimes they are correct on something. This time they're kind of much correct, even though I don't like this site. I don't like Game Central. I don't like them. Like, I legit don't, man, because they like to fudge a lot of stuff. But one thing is they got correct. We don't know. We truly don't know if Game Pass is underperforming. Game Pass, there's a method that Game Pass can work, and there's a method that it could horrendously fail. It's working, but it's like a slow build for Microsoft. And before I get to the other chart, let's see what this other thing has to say right here. Now, Sarah Bond, she made a statement recently about how Game Pass is actually doing really, really well. We don't know if this is corporate speak, and it's really hard to tell. Like, even me talking now, it's kind of uncertain because I truly can't pinpoint what they're really doing with this. So, Sarah Bond says, as Xbox Game Pass models has been extremely successful for us since 2018. We've continued to invest in it. Xbox JP creators benefit more in having their titles discovered and sub. Games like Persona and Kingdom Hearts, etc. is growing platform for new players. So we know for a fact Game Pass is increasing. But is it increasing enough for players? Because they were stagnant to like 25 million or 25, I think it was 20 to 25 million, give or take. I'm not sure what the actual chart is that they're making sales, let alone for games and having a lot of players. Game Pass right now as a whole, they want people to come back gradually, but there's only one way to come back gradually. You have to have your games. Xbox has suffered for a while of not having a lot of games that comes to Game Pass. That people say, oh, if it's on Game Pass, it's not going to sell well. Like for me, if a game's on Game Pass, I play them. If it's a game I like, I end up buying them. If it's a game I really want to play, I buy them. Like that's just how it is. That's how it is. That's how it's always going to be. And I do play Game Pass. I sub to Game Pass. I got PlayStation Plus. I have all these things. I have Nintendo Switch Online. Because there's a lot of games that we want to play. Xbox is slowly but surely coming out with their IPs. There's not a lot of first party stuff because they take long to develop with the Microsoft revenue and profits. And they have been making profits. And we'll get to that in just a second. Lies of P is doing pretty well. However, I've seen people not playing the game because the game is too hard. Because it's not a Souls-like, because it's not Soulsborne. It's a Soulsborne, but it's not FromSoft. Like there's a bias there. The game is hard. People love it though. You know what I'm saying? It's actually doing pretty good. Now, with that coming out, there's a lot of games in the future that we know that's coming to Game Pass. Elder Scrolls, of course. Starfield recent hit. 10 million players. Game Pass subscribers. Let's go. And a lot of people pay for PC and they're buying it off Steam. Fine. Okay, cool. What else is coming out? Of course, you got the Gears of War coming out, maybe, you know. Like the staples, Halo, stuff like that. And I can't really think of anything else on the top of my head, but we know there's a lot. Like in the last Microsoft showcase, it was Game Pass day and date, which is very, very good in the long run. That gets me to my next option. This chart right here. This is the revenue, Microsoft's last revenue stream and how it's actually profitable. It's one of the biggest revenue companies in history, let alone for gaming. Versus Tencent, because you know Tencent, they got their money in everything. PlayStation, 25. This is $25 billion. This is all in billions, people. Google, and then Microsoft. Microsoft is 16 billion. Do you really want Microsoft just to close down shop with all those IPs and they never come back, or are they going to sell them off just to hold them up for something? You know what I'm saying? They are making lots. Microsoft is making 16 billions and millions of dollars. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. That's why there's a long margin, because we truly, at this point, we truly can't pinpoint what Microsoft wants to do. That's the whole point of this whole conversation. So, after all this, what I got to say, let's give you my thoughts on what Microsoft is going to do. All right, people, let's have a chat. Let's have a real chat about the Microsoft as a whole. Okay, do I believe Microsoft, the main question, do I believe Microsoft is going to leave the console space? As of right now, no. I don't think Microsoft is going anywhere in the console space. Of course, it's good for competition. That'll leave a half, Nintendo versus Sony. No one wants that. Well, I take it back. There's a lot of people that want that. But there's one thing people don't want. Microsoft gets all these IPs, like StarCraft and all that, and then they close up shop without selling it. You see what I'm saying? And you have to technically buy the IP off of them. Nobody wants that to happen. So in the long run, they're not going to close down. Game Pass, though, I don't think they'll leave the console space for hardware, even though they have projects, let alone charts and graphs for what the next console is going to be. They're not going to go anywhere, or at least up to 2030. This is what I think they're going to do. Microsoft may leave the actual console space, but they boost up Game Pass so they can use your own hardware for other sources, but they have to use some specific Xbox branding to play their games. That right there will sell, not the hardware. Because you know, in Japan, let alone Asian countries that's dominated by Sony and Nintendo, they don't like an American company bumping in and taking their thunder. It's understandable. Xbox is still fairly new in the console space. They're the third leg. Not like Sega. That's why they had to add the Sega logo to the Xbox so they can sell. You know, they just don't want to do that. Like, the old guard mentality of old gaming is steadfast. It's gonna stay there as a whole. You know, you guys just had to be there, man. I remember back in the day, Sony and Nintendo were king. Heck, I still got my Super Nintendo over there, my Nintendo, my PlayStation, the original OG PlayStation. I never had a PS2. That was my brother's. So, you know, we used to go back and forth on that for a while. Then there's the PS3 flopped, you know, Xbox One flopped. But Nintendo, Wii U, they always had that console generation that flopped. But Nintendo and Sony, they pretty much held it neck and neck. And while Xboxes fall down there. Xbox is new as a sense, but they fumbled the bag on one thing. Their digital library when the Xbox One happened. I've talked about this countless times. Digital marketing for Xbox is the way to go. Hardware sales, I don't think so. You know, they're doing really extremely well on digital because digital is the future. Technically, like it or hate it, but that's the way it is, man. Preserving games is the whole. This is the goal, I should say. If they get rid of hardware sales, they need to focus on digital. However, this is what they can do. I believe that Microsoft is going to build up their cloud service, but it has to be good. You see what I'm saying? They're the ones to do it. They got the Google and Stadia, they couldn't do it. Get rid of the hardware. Ultimately, end goal, worst case scenario. Xbox gets out the console business, not the gaming business. Build up your freaking hardware. This last hardware system that can handle all of your needs, which is Game Pass. You know, I'm trying to get my thoughts in order because there's a lot of things that's contradictory. Build up Game Pass with what they're doing. They're making profit off of that. But we don't know the true numbers. That's one issue. Build up your cloud gaming service. Good. Your hardware sales aren't doing good. Make one final console. Just do slight upgrades at the end. Nothing too drastic. Boom. That's your cloud box. But with a disk drive, you know what I'm saying? Because you can have your games, you know, mom and pop shops can serve your digital discs, your physical discs. Boom. Good. Leave the console space. Fine. That's the worst case scenario. The drastic worst case scenario, Xbox has all these IPs. You don't get your games back. That right there is the key, what they want to do. Have all this stuff and they have no choice but to go to Xbox. Like for real. But you could just boycott them and you lose your games forever. Those are your only options, man. I'm not gonna chop this video up as a whole. You know, I say that I should get a shirt that says "as a whole." I like giving my raw thoughts. Whew, all I'm gonna say there's a lot to think about in the future for Microsoft, man. There's truly a lot to think about. But I'm not sure where they can go after this. You know, if they leave the gaming space, that's going to hurt a lot of people if they have all this IP. And we'll go from there, honestly. So in conclusion, I don't think Xbox is going anywhere because they set themselves up to stay around. If people don't support them, you know what happens. But I think Xbox has too many players in the game to let it go. That's all I got to say, people. All right, y'all. Like, share, subscribe, peace, and some more gaming content.